Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune into the show, you'll want to know that this is the top podcast in consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond. And that's why, because we're now over 200 episodes in. So do go into our website or your favorite podcast player to listen to the industry's top voices. And you can also follow all our newest on our LinkedIn page, which has now well over 22,000 followers, so not too bad. And also, we are a part of a family of podcasts. We have an older sister podcast in the US, which is the CPG Guys, where Peter and Shri have been recording episodes since 2020, and now they're up to 400 episodes, over 400 episodes. So, and they're releasing 2 episodes every week, same days as us, Wednesday and Saturday. So today I'm in a good mood. It's a nice Friday afternoon here in Barcelona, and I couldn't be in better company because I'm accompanied by the CEO of Cofresco, Oliver Strelecki. Hey, Oliver, how are you?
Hi, Daniel. I'm fine. Nice to meet you.
Is it a nice afternoon wherever you are? You in Hamburg?
I'm in Hamburg. Yeah, it's a nice afternoon. Let's say for the time of the year, it's very nice, I must say. So yeah, good. I'm looking forward to have a nice conversation with you.
Yeah, Hamburg is an interesting town. I mean, are you into football at all?
Yeah, but not in Hamburg. So I'm let's say I'm a born guy from Dortmund. So so we have our experience with Barca this week.
Yes.
So
well, you know, by the time this episode is released, now we're in the middle of the quarterfinals. Barca won 4-0 in the first game, but you never know. Yeah. Maybe by the time this is released, maybe you'll have come back. We're specialists in losing this type of knockouts.
So this gives me hope. This gives me hope, though I'm usually to be optimistic. It's like might be a difficult one this time. So yeah, so this is really my favorite. For years I had seasonal cards at the Yellow Wall. So I was very much into it when I was younger. Still into it, but not like when you're young.
It's a bit of a hike from Hamburg down to Dortmund as well. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And halfway is Minden, where my office is located. So
that's true. So you can make it work out if you need to go, no?
If I would need to, yeah.
Yeah, but Hamburg is interesting because you have Hamburg, the team which is actually a Champions League winner back in the 80s or something like that, or 60s even, I don't remember.
83.
83, there
precise. You go. But they are now in the second league.
I know.
In 7 years.
7
this
years
year
already?
They might have the chance after 7 years to get to the first leagues back, and there's a smaller club with also a big fan base here, which is FC St. Pauli, which is very nice. They are the first year back to the first league, and they are struggling. But I cross my fingers they will stay. So then we have 2 options next year to go to Borussia, watching it in Hamburg.
And it's super exceptional that now that Hamburg is in second division, you have St. Pauli, which is this club with a cult following, very openly left wing, anti-system, very interesting in the top division, which is an anomaly, really.
Oh, it seems you are an expert on this. So
of course,
but you're exactly.
If you're from Barcelona, the most likely is that you'll know quite a lot about football, even if it's international as well.
Yeah, nice.
So tell me a bit about what you're doing right now at Cofresco and a bit about the company as well.
Yeah, so I'm CEO at Cofresco. I'm originally from the marketing side, and I'm CEO there since 5 years. I'm 14 years with the company. Cofresco is part of the Melitta Group, which you might know from coffee, or especially from coffee filters. So 17 years ago, Melitta Benz invented the coffee filter. So a lady inventor, which is great in these times, especially, and still a family-run company, 4th generation, And they have businesses, of course, mainly on coffee, but they also have, how I call it, a plastic business, a household foil and fresh keeping business. This is us. And we are selling in many markets, we are selling our products, our fresh keeping products under the brand Toppitz.
Mm-hmm.
And in Spain and France, it's the brand Albal.
Yeah.
And in the UK, it's
Bacofoil.
Foil. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think in Spain, you call Papal Albal, you call for aluminium foil. I think it's the same idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's like the type of product that you call it like a brand name sometimes.
Absolutely. So, and we are selling these household foils for fresh keeping, baking, preserving. And then we are selling also very fancy stuff called garbage bags under the brand Strelecki in the northern, western European markets, and in Spain and France, it's called Handy Bag, which is also, let's say, especially in France, a big brand, but also in Spain.
Yeah. It is a brand that I've bought and I'm familiar with. And you're the CEO of Cofresco, which is a subdivision of Melitta. How does that governance work?
So we are, as I said, we are a business unit, how we call us, legal entity, and we are part of a bigger group. And so our idea, our purpose, our joy is to be part of this group. And we take, of course, central functions like finance, cash finance, like HR policies, like overall corporate development we take from the group. And then we do the business, so to say. We do the business most closely to the markets, and we work on very easily, and that makes a fun of it. There's an objective to reach, which is mainly in euros, like a profit line. And coming from the profit line, I can't do whatever I want, but I can do whatever I want within the guidelines given by a big company. So I have a lot of freedom, and I have a lot of space for creativity in this company.
You have freedom within your space of accountability, no?
Right. Yeah. Which is a big one, I must say. So as said, the way of leadership is like, okay, we need you in a special role. To fulfill this role, we give you what you need.
Yeah.
And this is so what we do. And I think for me, it's a perfect set on this, because I don't have these close boundaries you might have from other big companies, where you have to choose what, let's say, agencies or special customer contracts. So we can do it our own. This is nice.
Nice. And tell me a bit about the category. So basically, you have aluminium foil, plastic wraps, plastic bags as well. What does the category look like? I mean, clearly, in terms of sales channels, I guess it's mainly like through major supermarkets, no?
Yeah, it's major supermarkets, or where you have them, it's drugstores, like the special retail drugstores. As said, it's a fresh keeping category and the garbage bag category. Both categories have something in common, which are also very relevant if you market them. It's like we are working low involvement. For us, it's of high interest. For consumers, it's low involvement. This is something you need to, especially as a marketeer, you always need to have in mind, that you talk about something which consumers only care about when it's not working. A garbage bag it's nice to have, right? But you don't wake up on a Wednesday morning and think yourself, oh, what kind of garbage bag I will buy today? This is not how we work, how the category is working. They don't have credits, garbage bags. They just work. If they don't work, you are very angry with them. It's like we always compare it for fun, joking, with an IT service desk in your company. If you're there and help you, you don't say thank you. You say, This is your job. If they're not there and you know that don't perform, they can't help you because you make something so stupid that's not working. Then they say, then you are really, really angry with them and you say, you know, there's no performance. So then it's getting from low interest, you get it to high involvement, or from low involvement into high involvement. This is something very, very important. You buyers always on planned purchase. As I said, you don't wake up and think, oh, today, I have great joy to buy something from these categories. Very much also for your marketing to be understood how you do it then. Yeah, you need to come on the shopping list. You know, you will not make people thinking of you in the store, or let's say make you to the shelf into the store. We are selling safety, especially with the fresh keeping. You sell the belief that you do something good for your family because you preserve the food for longer, which is a good thing. Another nice thing is, or two more facts maybe, if I start the facts here, that you buy our category very, very seldom. So twice, 3 times a year. It's not, we are slow moving consumer goods. So maybe the podcast name is not right. So, and finally, SMCG, right? And finally, also very important is that, and this 2 to 3 times is also very interesting. Just before I forget it, when you do media planning, you have 50 weeks time not to reach the consumer within his buying situation. And finally, very important, usually in retail, you think about, how many products can I bring to the shelf? How many different SKUs I can show there? Still important. But at the end, every one of us have, on an average in Europe, 5 SKUs in his cupboard, in his kitchen cupboard. Usually have, let's say, if you have 5, right? But maximum. So you have an LFO, you have a baking paper, maybe a bag, and maybe a cling film, so fresh keeping film, and a garbage bag. Yeah. So if you want to grow your business and want to have innovations on this, you need somehow either substitute one of these 5 or make one of these 5 better. Which is like, this is a more, renovation is, to me, the bigger challenge than innovation. Interesting. And grow from renovation. And this is, let's say, this is our task. This is what we are for, and this is what makes us, let's say, the branded number 1 in Europe with the brands I mentioned before, and where we need to defend also our position.
And it's interesting coming from you because, well, we'll leave your LinkedIn profile on the show notes so anyone can check that. It's open information that you've been a marketer for like higher involvement categories, which is like beer, ice cream. So I guess it's been an interesting evolution. Now you're a general manager, but at the end of the day, you're coming from marketing. I guess that it's and you were the CMO before. So it must have been an interesting mindset shift for you, no?
Absolutely. I mean, when you worked for beer, for Carlsberg before in innovation, so blue ocean more or less, and not blue ocean, but huge ocean, in terms of find the right drinks for people, which is high involvement, fun, enjoyment, etc. And then you come to garbage bags, put it this way, right? But this is even more challenging, I can tell you, to really understand how to sell more garbage bags and how to market better garbage bags than in the past or than your competitors. And what we did, and this is really the only thing you could do, is really first, as in every marketing job, by the way, I believe, understand the consumer. Really create a very deep understanding of your consumers and create and generate as many insights on your category as you could do. And really, when I started in the job, we did deep psychology research in our main markets, which were these days France, Spain, and Germany. And really understanding why the hell are people buying branded garbage bags when they can have a garbage bag for the third of the price?
Yeah.
Why do they do the same for aluminium foil or fresh keeping foil, film or foil, you may call it? And this is because people have a very special attention towards their household, right? So we found out that there are people who really want their household to be good and clean, but intrinsically motivated. And these are not the ones, who wait for the mother-in-law coming and then clean up the house. It's like you want it for yourself. And then you think, okay, then give me the best tools. And then I pay for these tools even more than for private label, 3 times more, because they are better, they work better, they're easier to handle. And if you have understood this at least gives me, as a marketeer, gives me the thrill really to really understand and to come from it and think, gosh, how can I make this better?
And that's the insight that you get. And then from the insight, how do you market that effectively? Like, what does the front end, like your campaigns, your activate, what do they look like to kind of convey that message?
Yeah, first, before you market, you need to have the right product. This is also for me a golden line, right? It's like find the right products. And our products, as said, we are 3 times more expensive than 80% of the market, which is private label. So and as I said, we are selling safety. And when you sell safety, so the private labels are also safe. Put it this way.
Yeah.
And you can't, let's say, ask for 3 times the price and be 3 times more safe if the others is already safe. So you need to find something else. And we found out that what these products have in mind is that they are not easy to use. I mean, everyone might think about using cling film in his kitchen. So plastic film, right? This is a hassle. So what we created then out of this, an easier way to cut it off and use it. We have a special saw on our packaging, which we created together with product engineers and product designers. This is much easier to use. Our baking paper, on our baking paper, you can roll the pizza dough because it's not flipping away. Because we have a silicone on also below the paper, right? Our zipper bags, the bags you use when you enter a plane, they have a noise when you close it because it gives you the assurance it's closed. You hear it closing. This is something where we worked on, and let's say once we had this information, we started communicating them, of course. And there we use, let's say, we were thinking, okay, when we are just helpers, we don't make your household better. We are here. We help you to make your household better. So we found a way with a nice little sketch with a comic, which talks to you. So the product is talking to you, a bit of funny, but nicely involving you. Yeah, or we showed how people really think about garbage, and you do it a bit more playful. This is the way how we communicated it.
And you mentioned that you're in the business of plastics, which obviously there's different, social trends, but also legislation against plastic, let's say. How are you entering as a category leader? How are you evolve? How do you include that recycling trend into your strategy, let's say?
Yeah, this is now how do we build a strategy?
Yeah.
This is a bit more like including it in our strategy. It's like needs to be our guiding strategy at the end, because we are selling plastic. We have a responsibility for this, not towards the consumers, towards, let's say, ourselves. Like, I'm also a human being, right? So I have a responsibility to me, my family, to everyone. Selling plastic, that this plastic I sell and I pay my life with is handled properly and is also sourced properly. So what we did a few years ago is that we really we had a sense of urgency that was before COVID and before the war.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I can tell you since then it has a little bit stepped back, this kind of sense of urgency in the society, but it's still there. And the need is still there to treat our environment positively. We created a strategy which we called Honest 100. Honest 100 means we want to join with all our products the plastic circularity by 100%. Means all our products need to be either from recycled material or from a renewable material, and should be recyclable and should be biodegradable. So, the full loop. Plus, as I said, it's called Honest 100. We want to be honest. We want to be honest with the consumers, but also really, and this is really the truth, we want to be honest with ourselves, because you could tell so much, and there's so much greenwashing around. This is nothing, we wanted to stand for. We really said, okay, let's be honest and serious with ourselves. And of course, you can imagine in a profit-oriented company, to be honest with something, it costs a lot of money. This is always a debate. How much honesty could we afford? And we said this is our real guiding principle we are falling for, and this is what we are heading for. Since then, we have changed all our waste bags into 100% recycled material, which is a big thing for us. We have also started to integrate recycled material in our food films, which is a bit more difficult because you can't take the recycled material, which you think of recycled material, into a film that is related to food, because it's not food conform. So you are by law not allowed to do it.
Got it.
So we found an alternative that with a supplier, and we are a bit dependent on suppliers there, right? We can't invent it by ourselves because our role is not big enough in this kind of markets. But we found material which is made, let's say polyethylene, PE, which is made from oil that was former food oil, like from food waste. So you can, and I'm a BA guy, so I'm not a chemist. You can let's say create it from there or develop it from there. This is a bit of workaround, but this is all we are going for. And another example, we started in India. We started social business where we recycle Indian waste. Indian plastic waste, which is there lying on the streets. Unfortunately, people are collecting it for us. Waste pickers are collecting it for us. They get an ethical surcharge on their salary from us, so they work independently, so they get more money from us. We recycle it there, and then we use this in our garbage bags. So this is really building also the loop, combined with social business.
And don't you have also a co-venture with the Nobel Peace Prize winner Mohammed Yunus?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, right? I forgot to say, which is Mohammed Yunus is let's say he has let's say advisor company called Mohammed Yunus Social Business, Yunus Social Business (YSB), and they help companies like us establishing businesses like I was speaking about, like social businesses. So what we do is we are creating value on the one hand for a company. On the other hand, we do this always in line with highest social principles. And also we said that when we earn money there, we will invest it locally into social impact activities. So we set up together with Mohammed Yunus. They have a golden share of our company. We set up this factory in Bangalore, India, southern India. And the social impact activities we are supporting from the profit we make there is like we have a medical van, which is really every second week coming to the same slum and helping people to get medication and medical treatment. There's always it's really a little van with a doctor, a pharmacist, and a nurse on board. And they have all, let's say, the data of the patients there. And then we also support 2 libraries within Bangalore where kids can meet after school, play, paint, and have also social trainings. So this is a circle around, and very proud. Just received the German CSR award from the federal government of Germany for this project. And this is something that's really showing also that not only we like it, it seems to be also likable by those who can compare, right? And this is quite a nice award we received for this.
Yeah, I think it does go in line with the honesty part that you said, that you want to be making like a real impact and not just like stay with the headline of, we're a B Corp or whatnot.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we have a responsibility. We try to play this responsibility very seriously and honestly.
Yeah. And so you're part of Melitta Group, but you're in the same headquarter, which is, I think the Melitta Group is like a good example of a German Mittelstand, which is a mid-sized company, typically family-owned. That is really not a mid-sized company because the revenues are normally like hundreds of millions, if not over $1 billion. But a lot of times, and this is the case, they're not in a major city because they're wherever the company was founded. So in your case, you're in a small city called Minden, which I think is between Bielefeld and Hanover, right, more or less.
Yes.
How have you built, or how has Melitta built really a global business based in a secondary location?
Yeah, so it's a global business, first of all. So we have more than 2 billion of sales. We have more than 5,500 people working for us, for Melitta, and so 5,500 colleagues all over the world, in Brazil, in North America, in Europe mainly, but also in China and Australia and Bangalore, India. So the headquarters is there from the 30s of last century, so to say. There it's a very strong employer, right? So, and of course, it's not where you're located, it's the way you look at things and the way you want to do this international business. And the entrepreneur family was always like, looking for more, which is the spirit of growth. And therefore, let's say this little city, 70K inhabitants, so quite a small one for such a big company, is not an issue. Of course, it is here and there an issue to tell people from bigger cities that it's worth living there and worth living and working there. But if you living and working, this is also something when it's 2 sides of a medal. And if working is nice, living might be also nicer. And I can tell you many people work there because they like it.
Yeah.
Since COVID, also we have much more flexibility in terms of mobile working. We have an agreement with the unions, with our works council, that we can work, let's say, if possible, right? Of course, if you're a blue-collar worker, you can't do, but you can, if you're white-collar or manager, you can work from wherever you want, unless your boss tells you to come into the office.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you said, I'm living in Hamburg. Of course, I'm many times in my office, and so are my colleagues. But on a Friday, for example, the office is like very empty.
Yeah.
And I don't see an issue with this. Yeah, we see the performance is doing well. We try to bring people back for special occasions, town hall meetings, to have more exchange, and they love to come to the office then. But giving the flexibility allows also to handle a location which might be not that prominent.
Yeah. And how have you managed to maintain a great culture, or at least a culture that works and people feel happy when they work every day and so on? Because that there has been a movement in a lot of companies to go like totally back to the office and so on. Like companies that said they'd be totally remote, then now they're totally in on site, let's say.
To me, it's a matter of trust. And of, let's say, if companies tell people to come back, it's maybe also a matter of missing trust.
Yeah.
Into the performance and into the willingness, into the self-motivation of people working for you, working for your company. At least, for Cofresco, I can say that I have the trust into people. Of course, there's always exceptions of the rule, right? Where you need to look a bit more closely. But you see if people like to perform. And if they like to perform, if you have this performance spirit within your team, they perform from everywhere. And maybe it makes it much easier to do it from home, And, if they go, let's say, if they take their lunchtime break for not having lunch but going shopping, why not? I don't care. If they're after lunch and after the break, if they come back and perform, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is what's important, that you trust, and this gives you, and this is what I at the beginning said. I got the trust from the entrepreneurs, do the job properly, and I give this trust also to the people I'm working with. What's sometimes difficult is, I think, when you have an onboarding situation where people come new to the company, to really get the spirit and feeling how this company is working. I'm also missing the social exchange, having a coffee together. That would be nice to have it more often. Or let's say the last 2 days I was in the office, and it was very nice. You meet many people, you laugh, you talk aside. So this is something nice. But having both and allowed to have both, this is what I believe is important, and that makes also locations which are not that prominent, and it's not only Minden, make it much more easy to reach out for talents, for good people, and delivering a good performance.
And for you as a leader as well, because it's harder maybe to motivate people when you don't see them every day. Have you had to evolve as well your leadership style a little bit, or maybe more the way that you communicate to get people, to make sure that people are motivated and engaged in this new hybrid model?
Yeah, it's like we do once a month. We did it also before, but since then we are doing it much, let's say, more intense. We do town hall meetings. So in Minden, for the people working in Minden, and there is also the rule that if you have an office in Minden, you cannot join via Teams or Zoom. You have to be there. If you want to have the information, please come into. Sometimes we add a nice breakfast on this, prepared by one of the teams, so that everyone could have a nice breakfast together and exchange, also personal stuff.
Yeah.
Cofresco is not only in Minden. This is our headquarters, so to say, but we have 250, including blue-collar production in the UK, in Telford, which is also in the middle of nowhere, I must say, between Triangle, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, so the Midlands.
Yeah.
Beautiful landscape, by the way. Very nice people, by the way.
Rolling hills.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it, and I love to be there. And then we have 700 people, our main production site in Poland, in halfway between Warsaw and Gdansk. So and to bring all these together, we try to do what we call company calls on Teams, where you have then, let's say, all those with access to Teams online, and then it's 200 people or so. Of course, the exchange with them is a bit more difficult. So what we need to do is, travel to them, speak to them, listen to them. More listen to them than speak to them.
Yeah. And then there's another thing that I think is always going to be a fascinating topic. This sentence that says, the young people today are not like us. They don't do the same as us. I think there's records of this sentence being said in the ancient Egyptian times. So it goes a long way. But obviously now we have 4 different generations in the workplace. You have the boomers, Gen X, millennials, and then Gen Z, which is the big debate right now. How do you see this leading across generations?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and I was invited to answer these kind of questions in a bachelor thesis of a friend's daughter about women in Gen Z. I'm Gen X. I'm 53. So let's say, and of course, I started in 2000 after university, which was it was in marketing, ice cream marketing, and it was a Friday evening, 7 p.m. And my boss asked me, Ollie, did you ever work with Nielsen? Do you know how the Nielsen numbers, with the Nielsen tool? I said, no. At 9 p.m. you might know it. This is really, and that was normal, right? And I'm not judging if this is right or wrong, and I'm not judging, let's say, that today it's right or wrong. I simply have to accept that we have different concepts. Right.
Just being aware of it. No?
Yeah, be aware of it. Still, personally, I think, if you want to do career, you still need to go the extra mile, right? And this is something I can only recommend to do if you want to make a career. But this is first question, yeah. Do I really want to have a career? Let's say, developing into higher positions. If not, it might be fine. It's also completely okay if I sustainably high perform. Right? Yeah. So this is something you have to accept also as a leader with 53 years of age, and accept that there are differences.
And then what does that mean? That you have to try to adapt the way that you communicate to everyone, or you have to find a common framework?
Common framework is, I think, normally it's a bit, let's say, in a normal company you have this hierarchies a little bit cascaded. So let's say those Gen Z generations are led by Gen Y. Put it this way, they know a bit better than, By the way, I have a 24-year-old daughter, a 20-year-old daughter, so they are close to it.
Yeah.
So I still can think how these people think. Or let's say I try to. I give my best to. And then let's say you have this different letters. So Gen Z to Gen Y, to Gen X. And I think if we are all open to it, the frame will be instantly and without any constructions around will be set up, genuinely. If everyone is authentic, you can talk about everything. And this is, for me, if we have, for example, you ask, how are you handling, let's say, this mobile office thing? For me, it's very important that when we have new people on board from every department, or let's say from any level, I have an hour or so talking to them and speaking and listening to them and asking them what are your ideas and of life and of career and which questions do you have to me, and what is the most important thing for me is to tell them, I don't want any hierarchy in communication. Speak up. Yeah, and believe me in it, try it, test it. You will see, I mean it serious. And, I need your input. There's always a hierarchy of decision in a company, which is fair. But the hierarchy of communication should not be, because it's blocking you. And that doesn't work. So I always try to encourage people. Of course, they need to trust me then. They could talk openly to me.
Yeah,
but
you can't tell them to speak up and then be punished for speaking up, for example.
Absolutely, and I think they after time they know that this will not happen. Or maybe they ask their peers. But this is important, And then if you give everyone the chance to openly speak, from any generation, put it this way.
Yeah,
I don't see a risk.
Interesting. I like the point of view. So we're going into a bit of uncharted territory in terms of like global trade, political relations. Everything is a bit upside down, but I think the word is uncertainty. As a business leader, how are you navigating these challenges? Tariffs, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So tariffs. Okay. These days, tariffs are very common.
Yeah.
Let's say. We mainly sell in Europe. We sell a bit into the US. We have also a professional business, but they will find a way. I mean, actually, I don't know when this is broadcasted here, but let's say it's like crazy.
Yeah, we don't know what the scenario will be by the time this is released.
A different one, most probably a different one. So. So I don't. Let's say tariffs are not my main focus yet. So trade is of course important to really understand, right? Because we play a special role also for the trade. As I said, we are law involvement, and we are also somehow law involvement for the trade. I must say, if you in a store, if you search for our products, you might need to go to the end of the room, to the last corner, so to say, right? To find us. But because, let's say, the private label is so high in our category, we must convince the trade, and we can do so by, showing them the right margin developments for the category. Let's say earn the money with us, which they can invest then in the competition they have towards their competitors.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are at Carrefour in Spain or Campo, your competitor is Mercadona. So use us as your tool to work there, as your weapon is maybe the right word. Same goes in Germany, right? To really we can support you by making you more competitive towards your competitors. Because with us they earn money.
Yeah.
Right?
That's something they like, obviously.
Yeah, and they earn more money. At least it's my belief. They earn more money with us than with their private labels. And therefore, this is the way we need to treat them. And also the other way around, I would love them to treat us this way. Mm-hmm. It must be more on a partnership.
And as a business leader in Europe, by the way, obviously we're in a global playground, if you like. But do you think that there's something that European companies can do to become more competitive? Now that we're talking more about the US going with one way and Europe going the other, and Europe having to be stronger in lots of many ways. But from the business perspective, is there something that you would say? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Let's say what Europeans do is you have a lot of legislation, very complex legislation. Some of these laws or leewise make perfect sense. We need to take care for environment, for example. Mm-hmm. But of course, there must be always a balance of how much do I need to report or how much not.
Yeah.
And so this is something, this is more difficult, I think. But without, let's say, European Union, our company couldn't exist this way. If we would need to pay tariffs selling to Spain or France, if we would have different currencies, I believe we would have a big, big issue. So I believe, let's say, put the positive signs also, right?
Yeah.
The way, let's say, for a truly European company, which we are, let's say, at Cofresco, not in Melitta, but at Cofresco, it makes perfect sense to work here in the environment. There's always something to complain about. But on a positive side, you can have free trade. That was impossible for centuries.
Yeah.
Right? And what we see now with the US or with other markets where you don't have this free trade anymore because, tariffs ups and downs, and different currencies and currency effects that make planning much more difficult. That's not here. So much easier.
Yeah, indeed. I agree. So it's also like, it's what you said. I've been being a bit like positive and seeing like the glass half full and to make the most out of it. So only this podcast wouldn't be a regular FMCG guys episode if I didn't ask you our famous last question, which is, with everything that you've learned in your career, if you went back to yourself when you were starting to work, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
Maybe what I really learned after I started working, I did a trainee at Unilever and then a few years in marketeer in the marketing business, so to say. I would have learned much more about media than I knew than I brought from university. So I'm quite good in analytics and numbers. And I can be also, let's say, I love working with people and with a sense of creativity. And therefore, let's say the media management itself would have been something I might have chosen earlier.
Yeah.
But you could say it's never too late, but yeah. So I was good in what I was doing, so there was no need to really change it. But that would be something where I should have focused more on it,
Well, the media space is rapidly evolving as well now with the surge of like retail media, for example. So maybe it's not too late.
Maybe not, but I'm very happy in my job.
Exactly.
I can learn about it, but not doing this as a job for the time being, at least.
Exactly. So Oli, I'll try to summarize shortly the conversation that we had. I like the fact that you talked about that you're in a low involvement category. It's something that you don't need to have in mind, and that people only buy it when it's missing, right? But I think that as somebody that's a marketer of heart and of origin, I think you've seen I think you're quite a positive person, and you see like that glass half full, and you know how to see like the beauty of like all the categories. And myself as a person that likes to go to the supermarket and look at what they buy, I can definitely understand that. So I liked also like your focus of understanding the consumer and understanding deeply how they work, and the fact that it's a home purchase, so it's something that's very dear to people's hearts, and basically activating the brand and the marketing around that. You're in a category that has a lot of eyes on it in terms of the recycling part. So I really like the Honest 100 strategy of having all your products in plastic circularity 100%. You said that all your bin bags are 100% recycled, and you're also making movement with the plastic wrap, which is quite incredible. The story of India and your partnership with Mohammed Yunus is very interesting as well, where you get people to recycle the plastic. So you're doing something that's business-led, but it also has a circular, no? It has a good impact for business, but also a good impact for society. And yeah, I've been to India, and they do have a problem with plastic on the street, mind you, as we had it here 30 years ago, and now it's better than it was. So I think it's also like bringing society to the right place. I also really like when we talked about, the workplace, which I think is an always evolving theme especially after we had COVID that forced us to work all remotely, and how you're basically building a culture based on trust, I would say. And yeah, of course, you mentioned there's hierarchies, but in a culture that everybody can feel and can actually have a voice as well. And that's been good, I think, to build a great culture around a hybrid workplace, and also having an intergenerational workplace, which is very complicated to have. And finally, we spoke a bit about like the current scenario of ups and downs and trade wars. And you mentioned that being a European business, and as Cofresco per se, mainly selling in Europe, you feel like you're in a relatively good place, and that EU companies should really like double down on the advantages of being in the European Union as a really like place to really start and grow the future. So I hope I summarized this well enough.
Greatly done. Super.
I think it's my background in recruitment that really taught me how to take notes while being very attentive and listening.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. So, I really enjoyed this.
Very nice.
Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Daniel.
It was a pleasure, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG Guys every Wednesday and every Saturday. Have a nice one.